student set a record of murders, Vladimir Mukhankin. A serial killer, CHIKATILO'S student who operated in the notorious city of Shakhty, Rostov region. He committed crimes from the age of 13, and was repeatedly judged for robbery, and at one point, decided to set a speed record for murders. Vladimir was born on April 22, 1960, on V.I. Lenin's birthday, so he was named in honor of the first Soviet leader. The boy was born unwanted. Shortly before his birth, his father left his mother for another woman. As Mukhankin said himself, his father began to take care of his mother and achieved success. The woman became pregnant. The couple began to think about marriage, but, as it often happens, the mother-in-law disapproved of her son's choice. She believed that her son, an employee of the collective farm office, therefore an intelligent person, cannot be together with some kind of pig. As a result, the son agreed to the persuasion of his mother, married another woman, and the pregnant failed wife was simply put out the door. Apparently, at that moment, the mother began to hate her unborn child. Subsequently, she constantly blamed him for what happened. The boy didn't experience his mother's love, and from his early childhood, the only thing he heard were screams and reproaches. His relationship with peers in school also didn't work out. Small Volodya was teased and abused. In the hardest moments, the boy ran away from class or his house and would hide in the nearest graveyard. Subsequently, trying to relieve stress, he began to show aggression towards animals. He could stab a collective farm cow or horse with a knife. From 13 years old, Mukhankin began to commit robberies and theft. Usually, he knocked out people that were passing by in deserted places with something heavy and tore off their hats, bags, jewelry, and other personal belongings. In 1979 he was put behind bars for the first time, and in general, by the time he was 35 years old, he had spent more than 13 years in prison. Due to the similarity in appearance with the leader of the world proletariat, he received the nickname Lenin. In 1987, after another sentence in jail, Vladimir started a new life, and married a woman Tatiana, who he met in a bus. A year later, a boy was born in the family. He was called Dmitry. But the family life didn't work out. Mukhankin returned to his old life, and was put in jail again. Unfortunately, in 1997, after his father's arrest, Mukhankin's son drowned in the Kuban River. From January to February 1995, the criminal committed several robberies and thefts, but this seemed to be not enough for him. And on February 15, he commits his first murder. On the internet, there is lots of information about that the maniac's first victim was a roommate of his mistress Lovchenko. It seemed as the woman herself asked Mukhankin get rid of her roommate, and then they had sex besides the cooling dead body, and this is what awakened the beast inside the criminal. However, this is not exactly correct. According to the official document, the verdict of the court, the maniac's first victim was a 12-year-old Natasha Glukareva. That day, Vladimir decided to visit his younger stepbrother. However, he was not home, and the door was opened by a woman, a friend of his brother. A teenage girl was also with her. They watched videos together. The maniac started a conversation with her and invited her on a walk. The criminal and the girl left the apartment. The maniac took Natasha to a remote place where he killed her, threw the body into a ditch, and burned her clothes. The next victim became 53-year-old Lilia Ivanishko. The maniac attacked her only 5 days later after the first murder. That evening he was returning home from a buster, was drunk, and almost got ran over by a car. A woman passing by saw this and decided to help. Right as she bent down over the fallen Vladimir, he jumped up and stabbed her numerous times. He dragged the body over the train racks into an abandoned place, where he abused it, and dumped it right after. Indeed, the only male victim of the maniac was his mistress's roommate, Sergei Ustinov. That evening, a drunken quarrel took place between the men, and Mukhankin inflicted several wounds on Sergei with a bayonet. This was his characteristic. The criminal killed most of his victims with a bayonet, and not a knife. After killing Ustinov, with the help of his mistress, Mukhankin dragged the body into a barn, and then, parts of the body were carried to the Grushevka River, and buried there. After what happened, the maniac decided to temporarily stop the murders. On the 10th of March he commits a theft in a shop, and brings the loot to his mistress's apartment, where he lived back then with her, and her son. And on the 19th of March, Mukhankin and Levchenko came to visit their friend, Galina Murashkina. The company started to drink, and when the booze ran out, Vladimir offered everyone to go to his and Levchenko's apartment to continue. Galina took her 8-year-old daughter with her. The kids were put to sleep, and the feast with libations continued. At some point, Mukhankin suggested that they go outside to get some fresh air, and the three of them stepped outside the apartment. Suddenly, the maniac attacked Galina next to the stairwell, hitting her with a bayonet. The killer tore the jewelry off of the victim. and handed them over to his mistress, while he, himself continued to furiously strike Galina with his bayonet. After this terrible massacre, the monster took off the woman's coat, and also took possession of the keys to her apartment. The accomplices together robbed Mushnikova's house, taking various valuables from there, including a crystal table set, clothing, and jewelry. Later, the criminal decided, in order to hide the murder, to kill her daughter as well. Him and his cohabitant returned to the apartment, and brutally killed the sleeping daughter, Lena Miroshnikova, while not forgetting to remove the victim's golden earrings from the ears. The body was taken to the slag heap of the mine, where it was thrown and covered with stones. On April 4, during the process of theft from a supermarket, he killed Natalia Tyarina, a clerk in the shop. And on the 1st of May, he killed a railway worker, Elena Stefan. April 16, he committed an attack on Lena Vinogradova, a participant of children's and youth sport orientation competition. She is one of the few victims of the maniac, who managed to survive. It all happened in a remote area. The girl stopped and began to check her location with the map she had. At this time, Mukhankin, who was following her, attacked her. He struck Lena with a bayonet in the lumbar region, causing her to lose consciousness. When waking up, she saw a maniac above her, who was trying to strangle her, closing her mouth. The girl didn't get lost and immediately pushed the criminal away with her foot, and rushed to run. Vladimir did not catch up with the girl and preferred to hide. Then, during the investigation, it was Lena who identified the terrible killer. Another girl who survived, Galina, daughter of the last victim, Valentina Falco. Late at night, on the 1st of May, 1995, when the mother and her daughter were returning from a local cemetery, the maniac often came there. As we remember, he was drawn to graveyards from his early childhood. When he saw the woman and the girl, he immediately attacked Galina, and stabbed her 2 times with a bayonet. The mother screamed to the girl run, and Galia started running towards the commie blocks. The maniac tried to catch the teen, but couldn't, and returned to Valentina, wounded her using a bayonet, tore off the jewelry, and wanted to hide, but was stopped by a man that was called by the girl for help. At first the investigators thought that 2 different people were committing the crimes. One attacked the people with the intention of robbing them, the other abused and killed. But then the police officers came to the conclusion that it is one and the same person. It is interesting that a different person was suspected for the theft crimes. It was Yuri, a son of another maniac, Andrei Chikatilo. But then his innocence was proven. During the interrogations, Mukhankin acted bizarre and didn't admit to his crimes. He tried to imitate insanity and pass as an insane person, but the doctors established that he was sane, and was aware of all of the horrifying deeds that he committed. During the interrogations, the maniac was certainly proud of all of the crimes he committed, declaring that Chikatilo was just a little boy compared to him. He confesses that after killing the woman he planned on killing police officers, government officials, and other 40 people, policemen and detectives that worked with him. Mukhankin said that he wanted to set a speed record by killing almost every day. He also blamed his mother for everything. He said that by cracking down on the victims, he got his revenge back for her cruelty towards him. After Mukhankin's arrest, he admitted his guilt in all of the crimes, but only in court. After realizing that he is facing a death penalty, he retracted his previous testimony. In particular, he stated that the murders of Ustinov, as well as the Miroshkinov family, were committed by Levchenko herself. However, Vladimir Mukhankin's guilt was also confirmed by other facts, including the victim's belongings found during the search at his place. As a result, the defendant was sentenced to capital punishment, death by shooting. But soon a moratorium on the death penalty came into force, and therefore the execution was replaced by life imprisonment. But a period of time the maniac spent in full confidence that he would be shot. During this period, his mother, Valentina Mukhankina, visited him only once. The investigators noticed that Vladimir, usually very impudent and unpleasant in communication, when he saw his mother, immediately calmed down and became sad. Even as an adult, he retained a fear of her. The woman did not utter a word during the meeting. She just looked at her son, turned around and started to leave. Then Mukhankin uttered after her in a plaintive voice, "You will never see me again, mother." But she didn't even turn around. Subsequently, the journalist visited the maniac's mother, trying to call her to frankness, but she strongly refused to talk about her son. Investigator Armakan Yanyev, having decided to better understand his defendant, traced the fate of his classmates. Most of them were convicted under heavy articles. The criminal himself was even imbued with a certain respect for Yanyev. After all, the investigator was the only person who tried to understand him. Subsequently, Armakan Yanyev, in collaboration with Alexander Luxemburg, will write the book Serial Killer, A Portrait in the Interior, based, among other things, on the revelations of Mukhankin. In it, the investigator tried to trace the process of turning a person into a maniac. To serve his sentence, Vladimir Mukhankin was transferred to the Black Dolphin colony for life prisoners, where he remains to this day. As of the end of November 2021, the criminal is alive. During his imprisonment, the maniac started to write poetry. Some of his verses can be found on the internet. In the poems, the criminal blames the cruelty of society for his atrocities, talks about his difficult fate, and declares that he learned a lot. Attention is drawn to the poems dedicated to the mother, imbued with genuine and sincere love. Who knows, maybe if this love wasn't unrequited, maybe everything would really have turned out differently. In 2009, the criminal gave a short interview, in which he stated that would prefer to be executed, since life in prison for him was unbearable. Certainly, Vladimir Mukhankin's fate makes one think about the cruelty of parents and those around them. Most maniacs had a terrible childhood and were bullied by their peers, this is a fact. But still, it is not worth shifting the responsibility for the committed atrocities onto the shoulders of society. Unfortunately, in the Soviet, and even today, times, many didn't have a very rosy childhood. Someone's parents abused alcohol, someone was completely abandoned by their relatives, someone was ridiculed and harassed by classmates. But not everyone, after suffering hardships, picked up a knife and began to kill. Many difficult situations of this sort during early childhood have made very strong people.